Hey Colts, it's Mrs. Hladun. Sorry for the weird angle. I am working on my toenail polish. I would show you, but it's not cute right now. Anyway, so I'm sitting on the floor, kind of stuck here. So I'm going to do this reading from this very strange spot. And we're going to read from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And we're on chapter 28. It's titled Only Charlie Left. Hold on, I got to find something to prop this on. Urgh, sorry. Oh, that's perfect. Okay, great. Awesome. Okay, so it's called Only Charlie Left. And chapter 27, which we recently read, found Mike TV shrunk down to the size of like a ant or something in his mom's hand. And because he went through the TV, the chocolate television. Oh, I have gloves on because I'm taking off my nail polish and I don't want to mess up my nails that I just did. This is what happens when you're in quarantine. Your brain goes a little crazy. Okay, here we go. Chapter 28, Only Charlie Left. "Which room shall it be next?" said Mr. Wonka as he turned away and darted into the elevator. "Come on, hurry up. We must get going. And how many children are there left now?" Little Charlie looked at Grandpa Joe, and Grandpa Joe looked back at little Charlie. "But Mr. Wonka," Grandpa Joe called after him, there's only little Charlie left now." Mr. Wonka swung round and stared at Charlie. There was a silence. Charlie stood there holding tightly onto Grandpa Joe's hand. "You mean you're the only one left?" Mr. Wonka said, pretending to be surprised. "Why, yes," whispered Charlie. "Yes." Mr. Wonka suddenly exploded with excitement. "But my dear boy," he cried out, "that means you've won!" He rushed out of the elevator and started shaking Charlie's hand so furiously it nearly came off. "Oh, I do congratulate you," he cried. "I really do. I'm absolutely delighted. It couldn't be better. How wonderful this is. I had a hunch, right from the beginning that it was going to be you. Well done, Charlie. Well done. This is terrific. Now, the fun is really going to start. But we mustn't dilly. We mustn't dally. There's even less time to lose now than there was before. We have an enormous number of things to do before the day is out. Just think of all the arrangements that have to be made and the people we have to fetch. But lucky for us, we have the great glass elevator to speed things up. Jump in, my dear Charlie, jump in. You too, Grandpa Joe, sir. No, after you. That's the way. Now then, this time I shall choose the button we are going to press." Mr. Wonka's bright, twinkling eyes rested for a moment on Charlie's face. Here's a picture of them. It looks like they're about to get into the elevator. Did you think it was going to be Charlie the whole time? Something crazy is going to happen now, Charlie thought, but he wasn't frightened. He wasn't even nervous. He was just terrifically excited, and so was Grandpa Joe. The old man's face was shining with excitement as he watched every move that Mr. Wonka made. Mr. Wonka was reaching for a button high up on the glass ceiling of the elevator. Charlie and Grandpa Joe both craned their neck to read what it said on the little label beside the button. It said, "Up and Out." "Up and out," thought Charlie. "What sort of a room is that?" Mr. Wonka pressed the button. The glass doors closed. "Hold on," cried Mr. Wonka, and then wham! The elevator shot straight up like a rocket. "Yippee!" shouted Grandpa Joe. Charlie was clinging to Grandpa Joe's legs, and Mr. Wonka was holding onto a strap from the ceiling, and they went up, 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 straight up this time with no twistings or turnings, and Charlie could hear the whistling of the air outside the elevator as it went faster and faster. "Yippee!" shouted Grandpa Joe again. "Yippee! Here we go!" "Faster!" cried Mr. Wonka, banging the wall of the elevator with his hand. "Faster, faster! If we don't go any faster than this, we shall never get through." "Through what?" shouted Grandpa Joe. "What have we got to get through?" "Aha!" cried Mr. Wonka. "You wait and see. I've been longing to press this button for years, but I've never done it till now. I was tempted many times. Oh, I was tempted, but I couldn't bear the thought of making a great big hole in the roof of the factory. Here we go, boys, up and out." "But you don't really mean," shouted Grandpa Joe, "you don't really mean that this elevator—" "Oh, yes, I do," answered Mr. Wonka. "You wait and see, up and out." But it's made of glass," shouted Grandpa Joe. "It'll break into a million pieces." "I suppose it might," said Mr. Wonka, cheerful as ever, "but it's pretty thick glass all the same." The elevator rushed on, going up, 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 faster and faster and faster, and then suddenly, crash! The most tremendous noise of splintering wood and broken tiles came from directly above their heads, and Grandpa Joe shouted, "Help! It's the end! We're done for!" And Mr. Wonka said, "No, we're not. We're through. We're out." Sure enough, the elevator had shot right up through the roof of the factory. It was now rising into the sky like a rocket, and the sunshine was pouring in through the glass roof. In 5 seconds, they were 1,000 feet up in the sky. "The elevator's gone mad," shouted Grandpa Joe. "Have no fear, my dear sir," said Mr. Wonka calmly, and he pressed another button. The elevator stopped. It stopped and hung in mid-air, hovering like a helicopter, hovering over the factory and over the very town itself, which lay spread out below them like a picture postcard. Looking down through the glass floor on which she was standing, Charlie could see the small, faraway houses and the streets and the snow that lay thickly over everything. It was eerie and frightening feeling to be standing on clear glass high up in the sky. It made you feel like you weren't standing on anything at all. "Are we all right?" cried Grandpa Joe. "How does this thing stay up?" "Candy power," said Mr. Wonka. 1,000,000 candy power. "Oh, look," he cried, pointing down. "There go the other children. They're returning home." Okay, here's the factory and the elevator. Can you see that? Okay, there we go. So this is the roof of the elevator, or the roof of the factory. You can see like the factory pipes, and then here's like the smoke, and then the elevator's here. So I'm going to kind of get closer so you can see the details. Do you like my gloves? Okay, that's the end of the chapter. All right, so today I think I'm going to read one more. Let me just check. Yep, I'm going to read one more chapter. But before I do, today is April Fool's Day. Did you play any fun tricks on your family or friends? My husband, Mike, who is semi-asleep on the floor next to me, it's his birthday tomorrow, by the way. He loves April Fool's Day. It's like maybe one of his favorite holidays. And so he and my younger son, Ben, played a joke on me today. I came home and Mike said that he had checked onto Fortnite just to kind of see what was happening, and that he realized that there were like all these V-Bucks in Fortnite that we didn't buy, and that Benjamin stole his credit card to buy V-Bucks. And for like a couple seconds, he had me going. And then I was like, no, Benjamin, he would not do that. Like, that's not cool. And so I realized it was an April Fool's joke. But then I said to Benjamin, don't you ever do that. If you ever steal a credit card and buy something without permission, you'll get in a lot of trouble. So then Ben was in trouble, even though he didn't do anything wrong. So that was kind of funny. But that's how we roll over here in the Hladun house. All right, chapter 29. You ready? The other children go home. "We must go down and take a look at our little friends before we do anything else," said Mr. Wonka. He pressed a different button, and the elevator dropped lower, and soon it was hovering just above the entrance gates to the factory. Looking down now, Charlie could see the children and their parents standing in a little group just inside the gates. "I can only see 3, he said. "Who's missing?" "I expect it's Mike Teavee," Mr. Wonka said, "but he'll be coming along soon. Do you see the trucks?" Mr. Wonka pointed to a line of gigantic covered vans parked in a line nearby. "Yes," Charlie said. "What are they for? Don't you remember what it said on the golden tickets? Every child goes home with a lifetime supply of candy. There's 1 truckload for each of them, loaded to the brim." "Aha," Mr. Wonka went on. "There goes our friend Augustus Gloop. Do you see him? He's getting into the first truck with his mother and father." "You mean he's really all right?" asked Charlie, astonished. "Even after going up that awful pipe?" "He's very much all right," said Mr. Wonka. "He's changed," said Grandpa Joe, peering down through the glass wall of the elevator. "He used to be fat. Now he's thin as a straw." "Of course he's changed," said Mr. Wonka, laughing. "He got squeezed in the pipe. Don't you remember? And look, there goes Miss Violet Beauregard, the great gum chewer. It seems as though they managed to dejuice her after all. I'm so glad. And how healthy she looks, much better than before." "But she's purple in the face," cried Grandpa Joe. "So she is," said Mr. Wonka. "Well, there's nothing we can do about that." "Good gracious," said Charlie. "Look at poor Veruca Salt and Mr. Salt and Mrs. Salt. They're simply covered with garbage." "And here comes Mike Teavee," said Grandpa Joe. "Good heavens, what have they done with him? He's about 10 feet tall and thin as a wire." "They've overstretched him on the gum stretching machine," said Mr. Wonka. "How very careless. But how dreadful for him," cried Charlie. Okay, so here we go. So here is Mike Teavee. And then this is Veruca Salt and her mom and dad. And this is Violet Beauregard. And this is Augustus Gloop. Nonsense, said Mr. Wonka. He's very lucky. Every basketball team in the country will be trying to get him. But now, he adds, it's time we left these four silly children. I have something very important to talk to you about, my dear Charlie. Mr. Wonka pressed another button, and the elevator swung upwards into the sky. All right. So there's one chapter left, and we're gonna read it tomorrow, friends. It's chapter 30. It's called Charlie's Chocolate Factory. So better tune in tomorrow so you can get the last chapter of our book, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I'll see you guys later. Happy April Fool's Day. Bye, friends.